Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Glad to have you with us and thank you for lending us your ears over the next course of this show. We're going to be talking about the EFL Cup, the Carabao Cup, as well as the FA Cup and its relevance in modern times. You know, how big is it and how important is it in relation to teams like Manchester United? Is it still a big deal amongst you as the fans? You know, let us know in the comments down below. So that is all we're really going to be talking about today. What do you guys think of the EFL Cup and the FA Cup and where they stand in modern football?
Well, personally, I think the FA Cup, is still to be prestigious. I think, for a team to win a treble, the FA Cup has to be included, especially in the English League. And I think the FA Cup, compared to the EFL Cup, is more relevant because I feel like there's more eyes there. I feel like it's got a bigger part of the English football history. And I still think it's relevant because without it, I don't think you can complete that ideal treble, the real treble.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Like the EFL Cup or the Carabao Cup, nah. It really isn't that relevant. It has never really been that relevant. Hence, we haven't won it that much. And Liverpool have won it the most. But anyway, so I don't think it's that prestigious. But the FA Cup, I feel like people within the UK understand how prestigious it is because of the history. But when you talk about fans outside the UK, we can't really relate with that history. So when it comes to tournaments, yes, it will always be below the Champions League, the Premier League, but we don't rate it whatsoever. But I think it deserves way more respect than it gets, and I think it was the first football trophy, if I'm not mistaken, so it deserves the prestige.
What do you think of the EFL Cup getting scrapped? Because there's just too many games sometimes in the middle of a season for teams that are still competing in the Carabao Cup.
I can see that because okay, but then there's La Liga who have one trophy, but it's over 2 legs. So it's been like that for quite some time. So that's
still less games in total though, because with the FA Cup you have the replay. You have replays, and you still have to play your EFL Cup games. Not to mention there is a 2-leg semi-final, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Look, I don't agree with it being scrapped, but I do think some changes can be made. Less drastic changes. I think the replay thing needs to be gone. It doesn't make sense anymore. At once upon a time, I assume, this is just me assuming, they did that because we needed more games to play, because it was the only trophy there, the FA Cup. But nowadays, yes, I know they're trying to hold on to tradition, but nah, it really doesn't work. It's an inconvenience. So that they need to scrap. In terms of the Carabao Cup, I've always had this idea that maybe certain teams can play in the Carabao and certain teams can play in the FA Cup, depending where they are in the league. But that's a bit of a drastic change. But I would understand if it was scrapped. It would make
sense though. Imagine top 8 teams played in the FA Cup.
Yeah,
and bottom 8 teams or like mid-table teams played in the Carabao.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, actually.
Yeah. So if you didn't make like top 10, you get relegated to the Carabao Cup.
Yeah. That would make sense. I would agree with that. The problem is with that idea is it is very drastic because you lose all the teams below. You know, the FA Cup isn't just made up of English First Division or Premier Division teams. It's made up of other teams below, which is another weird thing. Like, I've always found it weird that the FA Cup has teams from completely different divisions. I've always found that strange and odd and peculiar because, like, you can basically match up against a team from the second league, a League 2 team, and they could end up making the final, even though they're not even in the Premier League. And I've always found that to be very strange about these domestic cups.
I think that's the amazing thing about it. Sometimes you see teams in lower divisions that go really far. I mean, we don't have a sort of history. A few years back, MK Dons 4-0. I don't think anyone will forget that.
Well, look at Tranmere this year. I mean, they beat Spurs, didn't they? Or they beat someone in the Premier League to versus us.
Yeah. Was it Watford?
Watford, I think it was Watford.
Yeah, it was Watford.
And Spurs. Spurs lost to Norwich.
There was that one famous season as well. Wigan won it while they were in the Championship. So they were playing the Europa League.
Yeah. So that's weird for me. I've always found that strange, and I've always found that takes away from the appeal of the FA Cup. There's actually a tournament locally in South Africa, the MTN 8 Cup. I used to like that cup when I still used to watch South African football because it was just the top 8 teams. It was exciting. It was quick. It was fun. 3 games, that's all you need to make to make it to the final. So it starts in the quarterfinal, essentially, if anybody doesn't know about the competition. Top 8 teams that finished in the league qualify for the tournament in the next year. And it was technically a preseason tournament, but the finals was played early on in the season, so I counted it as part of the season. To me, if you win the MTN 8 Cup, you've won a trophy that season. I know there's a lot of debates about that out there. And I think there should be a similar thing in international football, because it would be nice to see the top 8 teams go at each other in a tournament that does not involve the league.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see Liverpool get drawn up against Tottenham and us get drawn up against City and etc. etc.
Yeah. What I would say, though, with the history of the FA Cup is obviously United. It's a cup they often win. We won it 12 times, and
Arsenal have also won it 12 times, by the way.
And if I had to compare it to the EFL Cup and Carabao Cup, I just feel like those cups were a bit more forced. Like I feel like they wanted more competition, more tournament, which is fine. But I just feel like it was more forced and therefore became more irrelevant. Like if we also look at managers, how Jurgen Klopp and Pep. Well, Pep takes these cups very seriously. But if you look at Jurgen, to him it's like he doesn't really feel it's that serious and doesn't really take it that serious. And when I look at the managers in our past before Oli, Van Gaal, Mourinho, Moyes, they won things like the FA Cup, the EFL Cup. Okay, Moyes didn't win either. He won a Community Shield. That's all he won. But then I just also think that even despite them winning those cups at that time, they still lost their jobs afterwards.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's a trophy. It's a trophy. I think a lot of teams will take, including teams like Spurs and Arsenal, would take the Carabao Cup because it shows progress. And I like that about it. It gives everybody a chance.
Yeah, I've always said, the silverware is silverware. I mean, if you go into the history logs of both the EFL Cup and the FA Cup, you'll see some very, very, very interesting stuff. If you don't know your history, you'll see some very eye-opening statistics. Like the fact that I think Man City have only won the FA Cup 5 times in their history. If I'm not mistaken, Chelsea have won it more than them, and then us and Arsenal have won it joint the most. But the point I'm trying to make is the FA Cup doesn't get won by underdogs that much in this era, as much as the old era. And so for a small team to win the FA Cup, that's huge. And I would say about the Carabao Cup, it's kind of the same, because people always have these memes about Tottenham, their trophy cabinet being empty. They have won FA Cups and Carabao Cups, but it's been 20 years or 15 years since they've touched either of those trophies. And that just goes to show how difficult it is. And I just think that, look, some managers use it as an opportunity to play youth, but I just think that there's no excuse for these tournaments. If you're in a position to play them, you should play them, no matter what you do. Even if you play youth, your youth should take those tournaments seriously. That should be their trial at the highest level in football, and they should go on and try and win. And I don't buy the excuse that some people just don't take it seriously. Rival fans will always be like, yeah, we didn't take that trophy seriously. We let you guys win. That's no, you got beat. Just be honest, you got beat. Yeah. I hate that excuse. I've used that excuse in the past as well, just for the banter, but I hate that excuse. If you lose in the Carabao Cup, it's 100% your fault. It's not because you didn't take it seriously, or your boss put out a weak squad. It's because you lost. Just accept it. Just take the L.
To be honest, I respect big teams that win a lot of trophies in the season, like Pep and Fergie has, because if you're challenging for the league, it takes a lot out of you to then be able to put out a strong squad in the FA Cup. So I really respect that. I respect Pep winning the domestic treble. So it wasn't an easy feat.
When I look at how Pep won it, and I'm not 100% sure of this, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Man City put out their strongest team every single game. I think Pep did what I've always said you should do. Find a balance. Make a strong, put 4 or 5 of your best players in the team, and then 4 or 5 of your bench players in the team to make a joint strong team. And you split it across 2 teams. And one team plays in cups, one team plays in the league. And obviously it's going to change with time. If one of the players in your main squad gets injured, you're going to have to call up the player from the other squad if you want to call it the B team. But it's not really a B team, because you get players like Bernardo Silva or Riyad Mahrez playing on a Tuesday evening against Tranmere. That's not really a B team, because it's still a team that could challenge. And
That's true.
I think that's an easy hack for managers. I don't know why some managers have to go all out youth. It doesn't make sense. Just mix it up a bit. so that you can actually win.
Yeah,
I've never understood the all or nothing approach.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. I'm like, why does like someone like a Jurgen Klopp not take an FA Cup seriously? Like he is on course to win everything, the trip, and he bottled everything. Well, obviously the league is like dead, but you know what I mean.
The logic behind it, and I'm not saying this is what Jurgen Klopp is doing, because Jurgen Klopp has clearly shown in press conferences that he doesn't like these domestic trophies that much. He's not a huge fan of them because they mess up with his schedule and everything. I think the logic behind that is, look, in a season, youth players are going to train a lot with the first team, but training with the first team only does so much. You need to give those players time in a real situation. And you have two options. The first option is you put them in the league and jeopardize your league form. And in this case, Liverpool wanted to go invincible, so obviously they took it very seriously. You jeopardize your league form by giving young players a chance. Or you say, hey, we're a big team. We don't really need this trophy, but if you guys want to prove yourselves as a player in this team and you want game time, show us you can make it to the next round. And if your young players do that, it's a win-win because you're still winning league games. And here are the young men trying to come into the team and trying to continue the dynasty that you're trying to build. I think that's the logic behind it, because that's what I would do if I was a coach. If a youth player came to me and was like, Gaffer, I need a game, I'm like, this is your game. This is your game. And if you guys don't win, I don't know what to tell you. I gave you guys a chance and you let me down. That's what I would say, because I'm not out here trying to play a weak team against Watford when I'm trying to go invincible.
I get that. It's just I found it so funny that, you know, from a United fan perspective, you look at that Liverpool situation, you're like, the league was on lockdown and everything. Yeah. You could have gone for it. You could have gone for
That's when the balance thing comes into play.
Champions League.
Yeah. Hey, look, I feel like Klopp has a lot of power and freedom at Liverpool, and I feel like they gave him the authority to just focus on the league. And you can understand why they did that, because they had not won in so long. So I can see that. And I think he is all about development. But I do agree that a lot of teams do play a ridiculous amount of youth where if you want to win it, you don't really have to, because you can play your bench team, like Marcus said, and still have enough players to be able to play on the weekend and not worry about fitness and all of that. Like we've done it for a long time. We've been very successful in these cups and go very far because we never really play. Okay, nowadays we do play with youth and then, but under Mourinho and how we usually play a lot of our first team players.
And even now, bro, when we play a youth team, you're gonna see a Martial or Bruno there somewhere. So it's not really a complete, like if Fred and Bruno are in the team, it's not a B team anymore. And then you've got Romero in goals, who is a B team keeper, but he's one of the best B team goalkeepers in the world, so he doesn't really count as like playing a freaking what's his name? What's that guy who plays the second goalkeeper for Chelsea? Caballero. It's not the same as playing Caballero, because when you see Caballero in a team sheet, you're like, yeah, it's going down. No offense to Caballero, but it is what it is. Age gets the best of all of us. Like he's not what he used to be.
The irony is Lampard dropped Kepa for him as first team goalkeeper.
Yeah, it's going down.
Kepa's overrated, guys. Can we talk about that for a little bit? I think Kepa's extremely overrated.
I don't know if overrated is the right word, because I don't really know what the hype with Kepa was around, so I can't really comment on that. Like, I don't know how well Kepa performed before he came to Chelsea and what people thought of him and what people thought he was going to be. So I don't know about overrated. But yeah, I haven't seen anything from Kepa that makes me think, wow, I mean, he should be starting for Chelsea for the next few years.
They dropped De Gea for Kepa.
Yeah, starting for Spain. I don't get that. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, and but there must be a reason behind it. Like, did this guy play crap when he got selected? Like, was he actually conceding 3 goals a game when he got selected, or did people actually do their research and see why this guy got selected? Because there's no ways, unless there's some corruption going on, there's no ways he just got selected for the fun of it.
No, there must be a reason. The whole World Cup thing, and De Gea was off form, and then they picked Kepa, and ever since then it's been Kepa.
That happens sometimes, because like, I'm not saying he should be playing over De Gea, but that happens sometimes. Like sometimes when you're off form and you cost the team a tournament, or you're just not good anymore, and there's this guy in training who's doing the bits, and then you put him in the team and you're trying to build on something, you have to make difficult decisions. Sometimes you have to drop someone when you don't believe in them anymore. And if the alternative is Kepa, as a manager, you're going to have to bite the bullet and choose whichever side. So I'm not mad at like De Gea getting dropped for Kepa. I just want to understand why people think he's so overrated at Chelsea. Like, what are the people who are overrating him see in this guy, and what are the people who think he's overrated not seeing in this guy?
At the start, it was really about how this guy can be the next De Gea. And some of us thought that as well, but then he's shown that at the moment, he's not at that level.
Then he's definitely overrated, because De Gea is one of the best goalkeepers in the world, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, what I would say is that, because every Chelsea fan that I know personally, as friends or whatever, they all don't like Kepa. They really don't like Kepa. So
yeah, being a goalkeeper is a hard thing, man. Like, look at Karius. Karius was amazing before he came to Liverpool. He had a phenomenal season, and then he came to Liverpool and everyone called him a flop. And it's like, it's not really that simple when it comes to goalkeeping. And I think the same thing's going to happen to a lot of keepers. Like, everyone's hyping up Dean Henderson. We haven't seen him in a United shirt, and keeping is a very weird thing. Like, as soon as you move to a big club and the pressure is on, and, there's a multitude of things that could throw you off. You might not like the club. You might not like the manager. Heck, you might not like your teammates, and subconsciously you might start to down tools. Not because you're a dickhead, it just happens subconsciously. You don't choose to do it. When you don't feel like being somewhere, you naturally won't work as well as if you wanted to be there in your heart of hearts, and that's true. So Kepa moving to England, I think people forget the human element of football. Like, people forget that this guy didn't originally play in England. And I'm not making excuses for Kepa. I'm just saying maybe the reason why he's struggling in England is because he's struggling to adapt to the lifestyle and just the culture of the football there. And I know that sounds weird because he's a goalkeeper, and goalkeeping's the same everywhere in the world. But a goalkeeper's still a human being. He's not a robot who's just can save at the same rate throughout his entire career. Like, they do have dips in form, and that has to do with a lot of the things happening around them. So I get the overrated part, and if people were comparing to De Gea, then yeah, he's definitely overrated. But at the same time, I'm just like, give it time, with Kepa. He's only been here for one season. Give it time.
Not to mention Chelsea have a crap defense.
Yeah, not to mention Chelsea's defense is not as good as it used to be. So there's a lot of factors. Like, I'm trying to think of another example of a keeper who went somewhere and wasn't as good, but it's really hard to find one.
Mignolet, he was amazing at Sunderland. Went to Liverpool. Oh, we know.
Yeah, Mignolet is actually a very good example.
I would say Courtois, Padesh. When Courtois went to Madrid.
He's doing the things.
He's doing the things now. Yeah.
But but actually, Courtois is a very good example, because everyone said Courtois was a flop. Now everyone who said Courtois was a flop is quiet. He's a very good example, because that could happen with Kepa. That could happen. It won't happen with Mignolet because he's gone now. But that could still happen with a lot of other keepers in the world. Courtois is a very good example.
Even Neves, everything Neves also before. Like, people thought he was a pop, and then eventually he was just amazing at Real Madrid.
It proves my point. Like, there's no better example than Courtois. He came to the club. He didn't hit the ground running because he needed to adapt to the lifestyle and whatever was happening. And now he's comfortable, clearly. Now he's starting to find his rhythm, clearly. And now we're seeing shades of the old Courtois. That's not rocket science. Like, nobody's head should be blown away from that. And I think football fans are so short-term. And with Kepa, the only reason I struggle to have a proper opinion on Kepa is because I never watched him before he came to Chelsea. And I don't watch Chelsea games that much. So I don't know who Kepa was before he came here. I can't stick it up. Like, I know Karius was good before he came to Liverpool. So I can say something went wrong. This guy wasn't always trash. I don't know what happened with Kepa. And I don't know where. I don't even know where he came from. Like what team he came from when he came to Chelsea.
Yeah, I know.
Dynamics
could say
aren't black and white.
Yeah. I was going to say, a lot of people have question marks around Alisson and whether he's that good, the Liverpool keeper. And the Liverpool fans I know love Alisson. They think he's amazing. But some people seem to think he's not all that. Like, he's good, but he's not on the level of a De Gea or prime Courtois or prime Neuer. And what do you think of Alisson?
I think it's debatable already. I mean, like, if we're talking about keepers who are good at their feet, Alisson and what's the name again? The City keeper? Edison are the best. Yes, Neuer had his time, but I think at the moment they're the best. And De Gea can't do that. But then De Gea's reflexes are amazing. So it's kind of hard to say who's the best goalkeeper. Maybe it's who's most all-rounded, but then we don't really have a keeper like that at the moment. So
yeah, we don't. Neuer was the last well-rounded keeper.
Yeah, It's kind of
because he was acrobatic, but he was big enough. Like he was as big as some of the traditional goalkeepers. Neuer was a combination of De Gea and Buffon.
Yeah.
He had the dive of a Buffon. He could save a penalty like Buffon, but he had the reflexes of De Gea. In his prime, at least. Maybe not now, but in his prime. 2014, 2015, Manuel Neuer. I beg you to go watch some of his saves, and you'll be mesmerized. Especially if you like goalkeepers like I do, you'll be mesmerized by some of the saves that guy was able to pull out because you just can't coach some of those saves. That is just inhumane stuff from him.
If I had a team and I had to pick any goalkeeper in the world, I wouldn't go straight for De Gea, to be honest. If I have to be honest, I'd be between Edison and what's his name again? Oblak.
Yeah,
the safest.
Oblak at the moment would be my goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think the safest. I think Oblak is the perfect traditional keeper. But then with Edison, he has some traditional aspects. Yeah, maybe he's the most all-rounded. He has some traditional aspects. He's a bit acrobatic and he's amazing with his feet. So I think he's up there.
I've always said when it comes to
after what he did to McTominay.
Actually, I've always said when it comes to keepers that it just comes down to preference. It really comes down to preference. Like if you're not a team that plays out from the back, you don't need a keeper who's good at playing out from the back. Like look at Courtois at Chelsea. Courtois, I don't know if Courtois is that good with his feet, but I remember in FIFA Courtois was horrible with his feet, and that always led me to believe that must have been true in real life. I know you can't trust FIFA ratings, but I'm being honest. I don't really know how good Courtois was with his feet, but I imagine he wasn't anywhere near the best in the world with his feet. But he can save, and that's the most important thing. He can keep the ball out of the net. And when you have a defense like Chelsea had when Courtois was in his prime, you had a combination of a really good defense and probably the best keeper to fit in that defense for them.
He's massive. He fills those goals up so much.
He does. Like, he doesn't even... Like, some of Courtois' saves don't look effortless, bro. Like, it looks like he just drops to the ground. He doesn't even stretch his arm. And, you know, it's amazing. But I would say if I was to pick a goalkeeper, it's hard. I think it just comes down to preference. And I think, you're not going to lose a Champions League final because you chose Edison over Oblak. You're not going to lose a Champions League final because you chose De Gea or Alisson or maybe not Buffon. He's a bit old now. Szczesny from Juventus is pretty decent. I don't think you'd lose a final because you picked Szczesny in his current form. There's a lot of really quality goalkeepers out there, and I don't know. I really don't know who would be the best.
Yeah,
it's hard to measure. You could say clean sheets, but that involves defense as well.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about clean sheets, technically Romero has a debate, but you know he plays against Palmer's teams.
And you know, technically, just United in general has a debate.
That's true. So I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah,
keeping.
I think Ter Stegen's up there at the moment.
Yeah, Ter Stegen is definitely up there. Ter Stegen. Isn't there another German goalkeeper besides Neuer? A young goalkeeper.
I'm not sure.
My mind just went blank because I was about to say Ter Stegen.
I can't think of anyone. I can't think of the name.
Yeah, I forgot the guy's name as well, but I know there's someone who's challenging for Ter Stegen's position. Not quite as good as Ter Stegen yet, but I've heard people talking about.
Yeah, I don't know much about the German international team.
They always have great keepers, man. I mean, the last keeper to win the Ballon d'Or was German, if I'm not mistaken. The first keeper to win the Ballon d'Or was German.
Where does Trapp come from? Isn't he German?
Trapp is...
I wanted to say Dutch, but I'm not sure.
I
think he might be Dutch or German. I'm not sure though. But Trapp, I don't know about Trapp, man. Trapp is a good goalkeeper, don't get me wrong, but I don't know about him being as good as Ter Stegen.
I mean,
but even Trapp, I don't think you'd lose a Champions League final because you picked
he's German. No, yeah, he's German.
He's German. Yeah. Germany have a lot of good goalkeepers, man. Yeah. Isn't Leno German?
Leno, yes.
Yeah, Leno.
I think it's Leno.
Yeah,
Leno
is the German goalkeeper you're thinking.
Leno on his day is fucking amazing.
Leno has a lot of potential. He's just got the wrong club.
I'm not sure. Was he in the... I think he might have been in the Premier League team of the season this year, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Okay, no.
No.
I don't think I agree with that.
No, I I'm not saying you're lying, Shani. I'm just saying I don't agree with whoever made that team. That team.
I don't know.
Whoever
I'm
made
not
that-
saying I don't really know personally, but yeah.
Yeah, but if look, Leno is. I've liked Leno even before he went to Arsenal. I don't like him as much now that he's at Arsenal. But yeah, I agree. I think he's got a lot of potential and he's at the wrong club. Like, I think he needs to go to a club with a solid defense and everyone will think he's the best in the world on his day. Because you put Leno in front, you put Leno behind Ramos and Varane, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine. You're okay. You're not going to concede that many goals. But yeah, I don't know how this devolved into a conversation about keepers. We were talking about the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
One more thing just to close out the show. What do you guys rank your trophies of importance in a season? That includes Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, like from 1 to 4. I'm guessing Premier League's going to be at the top.
Jeez, my life, guys.
I set you up, yo, boy. I set you up. Go, Quid.
To make it more interesting. Actually, no. Actually, I'll ask the second part later.
It's hard. It's a hard question. If I have to be objective, it has to be the Champions League. But personally, if I had to choose between United winning the Premier League and the Champions League, it's no brainer for me. It's the Premier League.
Yeah.
It's what every English fan wants to win. We all dream of seeing our club raise the English Premier League. As much as we've done it 13 times, it's been about 7 years, and yeah, I am craving for a Premier League title. So the Premier League would be up there. But objectively, I'd say Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup, and then the rest.
The rest.
Yeah.
There's one more spot left on the rest. Don't respect.
La Liga, there's no competition there, so oh well.
For me, it's objectively, personally, any other way you look at it. Number one is the Champions League. That's the Champions League for me every day of the week. I don't think there is a more prestigious trophy than the UEFA Champions League.
Would you rather United win the Champions League or the Premier League?
No, you ruined my next thing.
Oh,
my next question.
Yeah, Malot United. Let me just finish it off quick. Champions League, FA Cup, and then I agree with Malot to the rest. But probably like if I had to go in the rest, like EFL Cup, then probably like Community Shields, But that's just creeping bottom of the barrel.
All right. I was going to say, if you had a choice, right? United can only win 2 trophies: a small trophy, FA Cup or EFL Cup, and a big trophy.
So a young double there.
A young double, yeah. Over the next 2 years, which would you pick?
Personally, for me, Champions League and FA Cup, 100%.
Really?
100%, yeah.
I think with the position, look, I want the Champions League, don't get me wrong, but with the position we're in right now, I would rather win a Premier League. And the reason why is because, I don't know, I think when you're building for something, it's always nice to win a league because that shows a lot more consistency. Like, Liverpool fans at the moment are salty because they were able to conquer Europe, but they couldn't conquer the Premier League. And it's like, whenever you bring up the Champions League as a Liverpool fan, people are like, yeah, but look at the Premier League. And then they're like, yeah, but we were going to, no, but look at the Premier League. And like, yeah, but the Champions League still, no, look at the Premier League. And that's always an argument.
And I understand that, but for me, I don't think it would ever really change for me. For me, it's always been the Champions League.
I love the Champions League, and I would, in any other circumstance, I'd pick the Champions League as well. And it would be great if United won the Champions League. I wouldn't complain. But I just think at the moment it would be nice to see us lift the Premier League and show some consistency that we're building on something. Because you can win a Champions League and then become nothing in the next few seasons. I've seen it happen with so many teams. Teams win the Champions League and then they're just not in the news anymore. Nobody cares.
And plus, what I would say though is like, if you look at United specifically, like, it's not like we haven't got Premier Leagues. Like, yeah, we haven't had one for long, but we've got Premier League. And with Champions League, we don't have as many as Liverpool. And for me, growing up, always the Champions League is just like, those Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights, and then the Saturday.
Can I be honest? The reason why I want us to win another big reason why I picked the Premier League is because I kind of think it makes the argument against City and Liverpool easier, right? Imagine we win the Champions League, right? And we win a Carabao Cup. But then City win the Premier League 2 years in a row. Or Liverpool win the Premier League 2 years in a row. I know you wouldn't care personally because, like, you've got your favorite trophy. But imagine the annoying loopholes Liverpool and City fans would have an argument like, yeah, but you can't do it on a wet night at Anfield. And you're like, yeah, that's true. We can't because we didn't win the Premier League.
In general, it is definitely the Champions League. But from an English perspective, like, you will never let it down. Because there'll always be that question.
No, as an English fan, you'll never let it down.
There'll always be that question mark, like there is over Liverpool right now. And there's this idea that it's not said, but there's this idea that Man City are still better than Liverpool. Okay, maybe not now because we've seen what they can do. But there was that idea that Man City are still better than Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly.
They won the Premier League. And it's not something that's said, but we all know everybody's thinking it. So
yeah, and because United haven't won the league in so long, I would want us to win that first and shut everyone up and then go for the Champions League. But look, if we won either or, I would be over the moon. If I saw Rashford standing next to Champions League trophy, I would lose my mind. I would actually lose my mind. If I saw Dan James drinking champagne out of the Champions League trophy, I would actually lose my mind.
Dude, Ole left the Champions League.
That's the thing. Like, it's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous to try thinking.
I think a Photoshop picture with Oli lifting an FA Cup or Premier League is more realistic than him lifting a Champions League. I don't know why. I don't know why. If I saw a picture with Oli, then the Champions League, I'd be like, that's Photoshop.
Believe.
That's Photoshop.
I mean, he has got a Champions League. This man, as a player, he's got everything. But as a manager, in that suit, lifting it up, ish.
I would think the picture's Photoshop. I'd be like, no, it's not real. Well, anyways, I think that about wraps up the show.
I was going to say one more thing. It's just fresh news, latest news. It happened a few hours ago, I think, and it's had lots of controversy around it. But Bruno Fernandes made it into a Premier League team of the season, BBC's Premier League team of the season, after playing 5 games. What do you think about that? Only United play.
First of all, I think the guy who made that team has no brains. That's number one. So unless he intended it as a joke, he doesn't have a brain, and I don't respect him as a football pundit, analyst, whatever his job is at the BBC. Whoever made that list, you should go back to teaching PE. And secondly, obviously, I love the fact that Bruno is in the team of the season of any sort, but I'm not going to sit here and defend that. The man hasn't been here long enough to prove anything, so I'm not going to sit here and defend that. Like, come on. Respect De Bruyne, please. Respect anyone else in the league who's working their socks out. No. I'm not saying De Bruyne is in it. I'm just saying respect whoever else can be in that position who's played an entire season. Because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of midfielders out there who deserve to be in that team, other than Bruno. He's only been here for 5 games, and he's only scored 2 goals.
Yeah, I'm looking at this team, and I think that Fernandes took the place of Grealish.
Yeah, come on. Please respect Grealish.
But I would say midfielders this season haven't been outrageous. It hasn't been like a huge pecking order because Pogba's been out, Eriksen left. But I do think there are 2 who definitely... Okay, 2 is a bit harsh because they've played 5 games or so. But there are 2 who are definitely above Bruno Fernandes, and that's Grealish and Maddison. And I don't know how you got over those 2.
Yeah.
But everyone's above Bruno except people who scored 0, like Lingard and Ozil. Like, you can't imagine giving someone employee of the month when they've only been there for a day, the last day of that month. What? You don't qualify, Chief. Like, the only person who Bruno has an argument over are the people who have had more games than him and have less stats, and that's like the Lingards and the Ozils of this world. Like, yeah, if that's who we're talking about, Bruno definitely gets in because he's done more in 5 games than they have in the entire season. But I just think there's no way around this one. Like, I personally do think Bruno is one of the best midfielders in the Premier League on his day, but he needs to prove that over the course of an entire season. And anyone who defends him being in that team, you know what, mate? You know what?
No, I won't even try. I think
I might know a cuckoo shack in South Africa for you, where you can go, get a brain scan or something.
Yeah, you know what I would say about this whole situation is, I put my hands up as a United fan. That's a bit harsh on the other players, that Bruno Fernandes gets in this team of the season. But then also as a United fan, inject it. All you haters, inject it into your veins because you are trash. And my man's been here for 5 games and got to this team. Please relax, okay? Please.
What I will say about Bruno is being in that team is whoever did that clearly wanted to rile up the media. Whoever did that clearly wanted people to respond to that post. I'm just saying, they clearly wanted some backlash because there's no ways they actually came to the conclusion that Bruno's in that team, right? Like, There's no ways they left out Grealish and Madison.
Yeah, it's a bit harsh. And I love Grealish. Everyone knows I love him.
Sorry,
Yeah, there's no way. So yeah, like that's my answer to your question. Either that person doesn't have a brain, or they do have a brain and they wanted to rile everyone up because it's COVID and people
And
have
it's
nothing to talk
Yeah, no, football journalists and pundits aren't serious, honestly. Remember when, I don't know who it was, it was the game between United and Liverpool, and they said combined 11. You need to pick the whole Liverpool team as the combined 11. Like who does that?
Yeah, I remember.
So,
Yeah.
like,
There's always a bit of banter in football, and I bet you, I will bet, maybe not my PlayStation, but I'll bet my old phone that guy meant to rile someone up. I'll bet you he wasn't serious.
Yeah.
But you never know. You never know with the world we live in. But yeah, please do leave a like on the video. Consider subscribing and sharing the content. If you did enjoy that podcast, it wasn't solely about the FA Cup, but I hope you enjoyed our tangent that we went on. And don't be shy to let us know what you think in the comments down below without taking your time any longer. Peace out.